going to mute you if you are on the call and you have your mic turned on. I'm going to mute you right now so that everybody can hear. This is being recorded because this is related to negotiations. And Caitlin is sitting there in a viewing room if somebody should show up and want to hear what we have to say. This joint committee is about school counselors. We have scheduled today from 9 to 10. I have put us just a little bit of cushion there if we need to run over, but hopefully we won't. And we do have a second session set up if we should need so. This is something that during negotiations was brought up from CTA that you guys wanted to have a conversation about this. We've put together a team. Does everybody know everybody, or do we need to do introductions? We can do introductions if we need to. Introductions? Let's do introductions really quick. So if you'll take a moment, unmute yourself and introduce yourself, that'll be great. I'm Jermaine English. I'm the manager in labor relations. I've been in this position now for 9 months.
All right, Theo Harris, Executive Director of CTA.
Justin Katz, CTA President.
Hi, I'm Charlene Beckford. I'm the High School Counseling Program Planner.
Bobby Brooks, Principal, Westford Elementary School.
James Thomas, Principal, Coniston Middle School.
Rob Grossman, Middle School Counseling Program Planner.
Sue Groth, Principal at Frontier Elementary.
Sherry Gertman, School Counseling Program Planner for Elementary.
Lori Landis, I'm the middle school counselor. I've also been in Whispering Pines Elementary School and Cross Point Elementary School, past PAVISCA president and the advocacy chair of PAVISCA.
Lance Gondek, school counselor for 26 years in Palm Beach, former FISCA board member, PISCA board member, and currently a board member for CTA as well.
Randall Audie, CTA staff.
Oh, good. Again, good morning, everyone. And I'm going to turn it over to CTA, and you have the floor.
Thank you, Jermaine. So you just met our team members, a mixture of school counselors across the elementary, middle, and high school experience levels, and then some members of our staff and myself. The reason we brought this subject up, generically speaking, at negotiations last year, and why this committee exists and what we hope to achieve from it is an understanding that school counselors have very specific duties as it relates to servicing the children who are assigned to them, and that oftentimes they might not be able to perform those duties, at least to the level that they believe is adequate, professionally speaking, because they're often delegated other responsibilities around the school that a lot of counselors have given feedback to CTA feel more quasi-administrative and supervision than school counselor related. So that's one, we're looking to have a discussion, and I'll turn it over in a second to our counselors, just to talk about the need to better shape, guardrails around their day-to-day activities so that they stay more in their wheelhouse. And then two, just like a lot of other positions throughout, public education in Florida right now, there are shortages or turnover that's looming because of retirements. And in an effort to recruit and retain high quality school counselors, we have started looking around the state at other districts to identify what types of contract language as far as compensation or working hours or stipends and supplements and so forth exist. So we'll be compiling that shortly as we get feedback from other counties around the state. But I'll turn it over to Lori first. She can give you her background, but she worked at elementary schools for a long period of time. She's at a middle school now, but she has great perspective on elementary school counselor working conditions and what might be some of the challenges. So Lori, I'll turn it over to you.
My mic's not on. There we go. Sorry. Bear with me. Like I said, I have a little jet lag. I thank you for the introduction, Justin. So I've been a school counselor for over 20 something years in public schools, private schools, K to 8 have been my main focus, K to 8, and following the ASCA model, right? So the ASCA model is the what the colleges are teaching to the American School Counselors Association, which counselors, are very much aware of and are trained in the model, the mindsets and the standards that the ASCA model sets forth. That's, our gold standard, right? So if we want to be recognized as leaders in our district and our state, that's what they're judging us on, the mindsets and standards that ASCA puts out, and that they're training the new and upcoming school counselors. And I want to say that I knew of this when I graduated in 99. So I'm dating myself a long way back, but that's what the current school counselors are also being trained in, coming out of FAU, coming out of NOVA, right? So they know what to expect when they come to school, and this is what they're training for and want to do to help students succeed. School counselors they really want to support students, and they're team players. They want to be a part of a team with their colleagues, but they want to make sure that their time is, I guess, held sacred in a sense, so that they are helping students, right? I think it's the hurtful part is when they can't get to students because they're designated to do student tasks that are not necessarily appropriate tasks. And if I can I share my screen for just a second? Let me see if I can do it. Where is our share screen? I'm looking for it. Sorry.
It's the box with the up arrow.
The box with the up arrow. Hang on, I'm looking for. Oh, I see it. Okay, there we go. Thank you.
You're welcome.
There we go. Okay, so let me share it for just a second. I can send this to people, so I don't want to spend a long time on it. 1 second. I wanted to do our appropriate duties. So, right, can everyone see this now? Can you guys see that? Oh,
yes, we can.
Okay, thank you. So part of what ASCA does is they do set forth for us appropriate and inappropriate activities for school counselors. And I can send this out to this group here. But if you can look at it, it talks about, providing counseling to students, really a direct counseling to them. Short-term counseling, we're not talking about long-term counseling, interpreting data, not entering data, consulting with the principals, obviously, to resolve student issues, needs, and programs. Advocating for students is a huge part of what we do. Analyzing, data to make sure that we're getting students the services that they need. So that was just kind of a quick, and I can send that back to you. I'm going to stop sharing that. Go. Oops, back to our meet. Here we go. So it should be stop presenting. There we go. So part of the barriers to what we're doing are the many duties that are assigned to school counselors that are not direct services. For example, like 504s and lunch duty, monitoring, supervising students, which kind of presents a dual role. Like if you're a school counselor and then you're asked to do disciplinary things at lunch, or you're asked to be on the lunch line, you're not just being with students, you're actually taking time away from them in a sense, because you're not available, because you're scanning to make sure everybody's, safe and sound. You're scanning constantly, but not available for them to ask you a question. In some schools, really that's your best time, because you're not supposed to be taking away from academic time. So lunchtime is crucial. And a lot of school counselors, and I probably could think this from elementary all the way to high school, are set at lunch duty, which kind of the reverse. You want to be available to your students during that time. If you're an elementary school counselor and they give you third grade lunch duty, you're not available to your third grade students. If you're middle school, you're a seventh grade counselor, as I am, right? If they give me lunch duty at seventh grade, I'm not available for a check-in, personally with a seventh grade student, because I need to have all eyes on all seventh graders and to be available. Again, the idea is that we want to be available for our students, and and if some of these things were taken off our plate, then students would be receiving more care and more availability of our skills to help them be more successful academically and socially and career-wise. The recommendation is also 250 students for one counselor. right? And then if you had that, if you had the caseload of 251, you might be able to do some of these extra duties like 504s. But right now, if you're, one counselor for 400, or in the elementary school for 1,000 students, right? Middle school is maybe 400. Elementary is 1,000 students. So if they have over 100 and something 504s and you have 1,000 students and you're on the wheel full time, that's a problem because you're not accessible to meet students to be responsive. You're certainly, you can't hit a crisis need if you're on the wheel full time. You're not able to meet the students because you're tied up in a lot of paperwork, monitoring and paperwork. And I don't want to sound like I'm griping. I really wanted you to understand the experience that these school counselors, younger and seasoned school counselors, they want to meet the needs of students, and they're also being judged upon meeting the needs of the students, right? And if we're being judged upon meeting the needs of the students, we have an impasse and a problem, right? Because we're not given the time to do that, right? Oh, we'll do that after school. Well, the students aren't available after school, right? So do your duties during the day, but you can't see the kids after school, even if they're in an aftercare program. It doesn't work. You need to be available for them during the day. I know that elementary school counselors would say that they want time to meet with students, individual students. They want time to do small groups. We know that small groups are a very effective way of increasing their skills, whether it be academic skills, executive functioning. And that's a huge piece that kids don't have, is that executive functioning skills. Very hard to do over a lunch group, or when you're doing other assigned duties, social skills and mental health, right? When the BHPs came upon, the idea we understood, and when we talked to Mr. Oswald and we had talked to Rosa before, was like, okay, we're going to get you some people to help you so that you can focus on student needs and you can do those direct services. And some schools that's working, but I want to say is that it's not a similar job from elementary school to elementary school, middle school to middle school, and high school to high school. And of course, every school has a little bit of different flavor, but you have school counselors who aren't feeling that they are fulfilling the need that they want for students, right? That they want to be able to do their job, what they were professionally trained to do, and they're getting burned out because I have a new school counselor next to me, and she's like, sometimes I feel like a secretary. I was trained to counsel students, not trained to sit here and push paperwork all day. And it's not that we won't do our part. Everybody's willing to do a piece, but I think, and Lance and I've talked about this a little bit, when you say otherwise duties assigned, it seems like school counselors become the dumping ground. Right. So if an hour and a half or 2 hours of my day is pulled up as, otherwise duties assigned, and I'm monitoring students and I'm covering for teachers and I'm doing 504s, or I'm the SBT leader, and SBT leader is a little bit out of our scope also. And that's one of those duties that's, you're being trained to do it, but it's a little out of scope of what school counselors should be doing. And then, I don't want to talk too long, but to mention what Justin said is that, the starting salaries of school counselors in other districts, we took a look at, and Robert helped me kind of just peek at these. We took a look at several other districts. Their starting salaries are higher than, counselors who have been here for 10 to 20 years. That's scary, right? They're not going to come to us. The counselors out of FAU and Nova and whatever, they're going to look elsewhere. We have a shortage right now of school counselors. I'm sorry. I feel like that they're telling me my time's up or something. That's a problem, right? Like school counselors are having to get second and third jobs, what have you, outside of schools to make ends meet. The master's supplement itself, and we talked about, is this just for school counselors? Is for everybody? But the truth is that master's school counselors, the master's supplement hasn't been changed, but cost of living has. So you're asking school counselors to go get an education that costs more, and you're asking them to do a job that doesn't pay more, and still the master supplement isn't helping. Some principals I understand are giving a little bit of a stipend for 504s or SPT. That's not across the board. So it's not equitable across, elementary, middle, and high. It's a problem. Again, it's a privilege to work with children, and school counselors really want to be able to work with students, be partners with families, right? And be partners with their colleagues, the teachers and the faculty in the school. But if you're tied up in all these different extra jobs, it's very difficult to do that. Definitely team players. We work on the multidisciplinary team very well together with our co-located. We think for the work that they're doing, and want to continue that partnership. I think it's been a great partnership. They just don't want to end up being secretaries again. I think they really, or teaching full time. If they wanted to be teachers full time, I think that school counselors would have gone, stayed being a teacher or would have gone to teaching. based upon, like, if you look at school survey needs, right? You're going to look and see that there is a need, but it doesn't make sense to do that full time in a classroom all day long, because otherwise you're missing the other points. You're missing tier 2 services that you could be providing students. You're missing tier 3 that you could be providing students. So it wouldn't make sense, and that's not how the national standards tell us to do our job. In fact, in a sense, the interns that are coming around are saying, oh wait, we're not allowed to do that. Oh wait, we're not allowed to do that. So if you're bringing on interns who are going to be our next school counselors and they're telling not to do these services, it makes the current school counselors go, wait a second, that doesn't make sense to us. Again, we love our jobs. We are the first person that I think that the parents call. We're like they sometimes even call us before the teacher. They call us when they need help, but we need to be available to be the helpers. And then our students can be more successful. And that's it. I mean, if we had the 1 to 250, think about how many students we could help to be academically and socially competent and, career minded, whether they're on a college track or whether they're on a technical track, right? So we want to make sure that we're there for all of our students. Thank you. I appreciate it. I'm happy to answer any questions as well.
Thank you, Lori. Jermaine, I don't know what kind of format you want to follow, if we kind of go back and forth between the teams with anyone who has input, or if you want us to kind of run through our team first.
Why don't you go ahead and run through yours? We do have set up breakout rooms so that we can separate if we need to and have conversations amongst ourselves that are off camera. But why don't you guys go ahead and give us everything so that when we go into our little breakout session, we'll know exactly what it is. Lori, if you could send out that document, that would be great.
That'd be helpful.
That would be very, very helpful, because that was very insightful.
Okay, I actually have a couple of the roles, the roles for elementary, middle, and high. Also school counselor versus guidance counselor. And I know that's not our major effect, but people keep calling us guidance counselors, and it really is a different a different role that we play now than our colleagues did back, a long time ago. So we want to make sure that that's mentioned as well. But I'll send you guys these pieces of information.
Wonderful. And if you could also put it into the chat, that would be great. That way we can get to it right now while we're on this call.
Okay, we'll do.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Lance, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, I can. My name is Lance Gondig. Thank you, Laura. The main thing that I want to take, because she was really going over K through 8 concerns, was when I was part of FSCA board, Florida School Counselor Association, and FSCA's board, my position was advocacy at all levels. Part of our duty as a professional was to advocate for our position, not just at the moment of graduating, but also while you're in the profession. So that's why I want to say thank you for everybody who's on today's meeting, because Theo may smile. He's known me for over 25 years, and I have not stopped supporting school counselors and promoting my profession. But it has been frustrating only because it's been diluted in regarding to our job description. That's why I want to lead into the job description, in which I believe that was done a few years ago. I really do believe it was done in good faith. I know CTA was not happy with it because they were not part of the process. A few people who were part of FSCA at the time are now working for the district. But I truly do believe it was done in good faith. But what it does, it gave a scatterboard of all the things that school counselors do across all grade levels, K through 12. And that's what the problem is gotten to, is that we cannot, there's only so many hours in the day. And the analogy I'll use is that the kids are like the pitcher and I'm like the catcher. And first base is parents, second base is teachers, and third base is administrators. And we're all part of the school community. And that was the big shift, as she said, from guidance counselor to school counselor, in lieu of the mindset of what we actually do on a school site or working at what capacity as a school counselor. In lieu of that as well, many of us that went to school with the dual programs, and when she said a lot of education, I have over 100 graduate hours. And I also, I'm one of the few, and my colleagues here, we're all qualified to be principals, not to take away from that responsibility as well, but we also hold the administration degrees. So we were very fortunate. My site is that when we're given another task or designee that takes away our time from students, we're capable, highly proficient, but we're never in a position to say no. And I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but because of that job description that was produced, we're in a giving personality. We're not takers by nature. So we have a conflict. And when we have a professional conflict, and that's what causes stress in managing our own ability to work with children. I'm glad she brought up duties. In Area 1, I can speak of Area 1 because I've been part of an interview team and I've been talking to other colleagues within Area 1, the South area. At the middle school level, we're used as deans in a lot of situations between bullying, testing, SBT. And I know these tasks need to be done. I'm not complaining. It takes away from our time to work with children. And when it's gotten to a point now, is that we have gotten memos that there's tasks to be done over the summer, and we're asked as a department who is monitoring those tasks over the summer, such as Florida Virtual School, summer registrations, 504s that come in, because the APs, their jobs are important, but I do, like I said, I carry both hats. They're not tasked with that liability, such as the school counselors are. I know we talked about I'm not going to talk about other states, and Justin asked me about counties. Duval, Brevard, they have recognized that school counselors are becoming a shortage of the amount of schooling and liability that's on them, and they have adjusted their pay scales or their 11-month. And I know it's a discussion down the road, but this is not uncommon with the other counties are addressing the needs of their professional school counselors to maintain their staff as well. In regards to the ASCO model, I smile. I'm glad you showed that paperwork this morning, Ms. Landis, is because I am a trainer for future school counselors. And the third day she came in, she's doing a practicum. And a few students that were in her class mentioned to the professor what they were doing of the task or the daily task. And I'm talking from the middle school, as well as the elementary who are on the wheel. The professor really made them really uncomfortable. And she came in with that FISCA model and said, everything on the right side of this form, I cannot perform. And she didn't want to get in trouble with me. And I said, I understand exactly where you're coming from. You're here to learn, be prepared to be a professional school counselor. I am not going to cause you grief and anxiety here. But even at the level of it, as you're going through school, there's a conflict of what they're really asked to do during the course of the day, or the conflict of what they're doing. As I said, I'm not uncomfortable doing these things because I apparently was very comfortable. I interviewed for 2 high school positions as deans. I truly want to stay as a school counselor, but it was interesting of the task of a dean at the high school level, how they're able to appropriate manpower. I smiled because my workload would actually be less. Not taking anything away from what a dean does, but the workload, if I took the 2 jobs at the 2 high schools, my caseload would be cut in half. I do scheduling, I do supervision. The other tasks that I'm asked to do from the school student development plan, which are to me the priority, what I do as a school counselor, it was hard for me to say no, and I thank them. But from the experience of seeing how the 3 levels are uniquely different, that's also important when you look at it's out there, the job description or what the expectations are. I know as soon as you mentioned, I don't mind saying it, advocacy, when I was at the state level with the FISCA, as soon as you mention money, you talk about everybody just shutting down and not really addressing what the concerns were. However, I don't mind saying it, the other counties have started to do it. And I do appreciate everybody's time this morning in regards to listening to what our concern, not just for me, that's what the surveys were produced. So it's not, as Justin says, be careful of your soapbox. And I smile because he's known me a long time, so is Theo. But I truly believe I was recruited to come here 26 years ago. I know I only have 4 or 5 years left. I love being a school counselor. I know I've made an impact, but I will continue to fight professionally for my profession. So thank you, everybody listening this morning.
Lance, I had a quick question. You were talking about job description. I'm assuming, but I don't like to assume, you're talking about the school counselor certified job description?
I believe during Novosa's time, I believe there was that it was done in good faith when they were talking about the importance of school counselors. There was that job description. It wasn't designed through the contract. I believe it was done by committee, and the school board endorsed it.
Because the one I'm looking at is from October of 2016. Does that sound about the right time?
I believe so. 16.
Okay.
Yes, it's before the pandemic. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you, sir. I
You're
just wanted
welcome.
to make sure that we were all talking apple to apple.
Thank you, ma'am.
Well, Ms. Landis said something about May 3rd, 2019, a bulletin, principals assurances. So I'm not sure. That's a little bit further updated, 2019 versus 2016. I'm kind of pulling it up now.
So that was when the referendum money came in, and I believe that they wanted to make sure that money being used, that school counselors and other professionals were being used in the most effective way. It also shored up and some equity amongst like school counselors, their extra days and different things that wasn't quite shared across the board. And I think there's even an update to that. For example, middle school and high school counselors have 5 days that they are afforded or allowed to work in the summer or throughout the year. I guess for different schools, it works a little bit differently. Elementary, there was a number on there at that time. I don't think there is one at this time. But I think it was a reminder between the principal school counselors relationship, I'm so sorry, but the effectiveness and making sure that everybody's doing their direct services with kids.
All right, and next up on our side, we have Laura Tomasello. Laura, you could introduce yourself, give a little bit of background on your work as a counselor in Palm Beach County or anywhere else. And
okay.
Speak.
Thank you.
There you go.
Okay, and good morning, everyone. Thank you so much. Laura Tomasello, I'm in my 29th year in the district. I started out in 92, I think it was. There was a year in the very beginning that, and I'm just adding this just for a little bit of the full picture here. I left and worked for a day treatment center in Boca, and I had the real serious issues of suicidal, whether they were, starting to go down that path or whether they had already tried and been in a rehab. So that was quite an eye-opener and a lesson learned outside of the graduate program. I mean, Lori and Lance, you guys did a phenomenal job summarizing everything. Lori is a little bit, the full picture plus the elementary and possibly middle. And Lance and I, having experienced with, the high school level, there is, substantial difference. However, the duties that we're all asked to be doing year round do take us away. And that is a very serious point, especially in the last, I'd say 5 to 10 years, mental health has just flourished. And whether it's giving knowledge about it and understanding some of the things I've been 17 years here at Dreyfus School of the Arts. It hasn't pigeonholed me because I've been kept through CTA and things like that. I kind of kept district-wide with what's going on. However, I do have a lot of colleagues over the years from previous schools and this one that have come and gone, and we kind of keep in touch. It is across the board, these kind of constraints. I mean, counselors, just by the nature, we're the backup plan. We're the one everybody goes to. For instance, when we had COVID, there was no summer for counselors. We went right straight through when the year ended, and we run Google Meets from home. And, it was all night. I had incoming 9th graders who had never been to high school, and they were, their year of 8th grade was a disaster, as everybody knows. And so I was on with parents. I was, listening to parents' woes and how do I help my children and that kind of thing. So the community involvement with the counselor piece is really important. I know to some principals, it's a lot, easier for them to make that connection, and they have programs and things that facilitate that, especially when they're community high school. But it's also so important to understand that while we wear the responsibility hat of maintaining our own curriculum number of students, ideally, Lori, with 250, I was like, oh, wouldn't that be a treat, if we could do that. But I've had anywhere from, when I was at Boynton High, it was 450 to 500. And it's almost impossible to get to know or see those students on a regular basis. So with the smaller numbers, that's where we're going to be able to intercede and maybe even have a little bit of a a breather, because I'm kind of a positive thinker and a proactive, and I really believe that we are in such a good position to roll out coping skills and how to deal with, so we can head off some of what we're in need of servicing. If that makes sense. I really feel like, I know there's some things that are rolled out and there's some pieces of it in Suite 360, which the district has put out, but to be able to enhance that, as opposed to the clerical time that we spend, and every school is different and every school has to manage with what they've got. And that's been cut from the federal to the state to our district. And we understand that, because that's what we do, is we understand. So we kind of figure out now, what are we going to do? But the time it takes to generate all of the productivity that's required and set up for the 504s is not that we're not a huge contributor to those plans and the IEPs and listening to those and things like that, but the time in setting that up and confirming and that kind of thing really does take away from the class time, the office time, I should say, with students, getting across to the students that they can even come to their counselor. I see students all over, and we end up in conversation, and when I'm shopping or out and about, and they'll say, gosh, I don't even know who my counselor is. That's heartbreaking for a counselor, because we want to be able to feel like the students know they can come and see us and where to go. That's just huge. Parents know, they're not afraid to pick up the phone and call or email, especially now with all the technology, the emails and Zooms and things like that, or Google Meets. It makes it a lot easier to communicate. But it's the most important piece is the student. And for us to have to step aside, and there have been over the years, obviously, even when I worked my first couple of years getting my master's, I was doing cafeteria duty in a middle school. So I know when you're trying to watch 300 students at a time and one comes up and says, can I talk to you? It's heartbreaking. So, to be able to say yes more is what we want to do. And Lance, I felt your pain there. We don't want to say no. We're definitely not complaining from that platform. But I just want to say it's thankful. It's a great thing that we have those 5 days. That's been the last several years that I can remember. We've had the 5 extra days. How does a counselor walk in when a teacher does? We're not just making lesson plans. We're setting up schedules. We're making sure that things are ready to go so that the students walk in and have a smooth transition, with their counseling piece as well. And to get paid for it. I mean, before that, we would have to come in for a couple of days, which is, not the plan, because we're supposed to be, following what we're supposed to be following. So that's a good thing. And I also just want to add the piece, while we're always welcome to more money, it's almost not about the money. If, paying a stipend, and I hear that that's wonderful for doing 504s and things like that, principals find money because they're resourceful and they want to show their appreciation that way. But the money isn't the reason. It's the servicing of the students and the parents that I think is really the impact that we're trying to bridge. Let me see what else I had in here. High school is a lot different. It's not in an elementary school. You're teaching them. You're embedding how they grow in their growth process. But in high school, added to all of that is the preparation for these students for the next phase. When I worked in the middle school, it was great because we said, oh, wait till you get to high school. Now you're in high school. Now we're saying, wait till you get to college. But we're pushing these kids out the door as an adult. They're 6 months to a year away from being 18, 19 and out on their own sometimes. They don't have the family support and everybody's got college paid for or a job that's waiting for them. So in addition to counseling with that kind of thing and getting them prepped for college and career, I love that they've embraced both words together, but also teaching them how to be positive and how to be confident and how to, all of those things that we're coming across, making sure they have the schedules they want to have. I mean, these are part of our duties that we blend together. I'm doing schedules for next year and I'm counseling students on Life 101 in the short version, trying to help them understand that everything they're doing is important. So we are constantly dialoguing with students and parents and that. So what's important, as Lori and Lance both said, is that everything is assessed as a holistic view, that, we're trying to follow the ASCA model. We're trying to comply with dotting the I's and crossing the T's. And at the same time, we're almost like, I feel like a juggler. How are we going to keep all this going smoothly? And, there's so much involved in it, but to have that freedom of knowing we're available for the students really helps. One of the things I mentioned in my interest in doing this as well is maybe this, from the district point of view, helping principals understand the positive impact that a counselor has on the whole school culture. That being able to be supportive for teachers, being able to have, to look up from the paperwork that we're doing and, do some things for staff motivation and things like that. We're trained counselors to counsel people. It's not just elementary age or middle school students. We're trained for the mental health issues. We're trained, on a slight level, even though we're not clinical into the psychology degrees, but we are trained for bereavement. We're trained for loss. We're trained for, anxiety and things like that we're trying to help everybody as a whole. So I think more, development that way and on that kind of understanding. I'm not sure that, I don't want to get political, but as high up as you want to go for people to really understand what a counselor does and potentially can do. I think that's one of the best things that having the ASCA support model that's evolved over the years is so essential. And I'm also open to any questions or, things that you may want me to elaborate on.
Thank you, Laura. We definitely appreciate you all taking the time to hear our side out. Jermaine, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you. And Laura, Lori, and Lance, 3 L's, thank you so very much for your service. Seriously. I don't know if anybody's going to say it to you this week, so I wanted to make sure that I did and that this team thanks you for your service as well. What you guys do is definitely needed and felt, so thank you for what you do.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. So to my team, I'm going to say we need a minute to break away and have some conversations about all the things that we've heard. I'm thinking 7 minutes. Does that work? Anybody think we need more? 7 sounds good. 7, 10? 7, 10. We'll split the difference. We'll do 8.
Compromise. There you go.
Caitlin's going to put us all into separate breakout rooms in case you guys wanted to have conversations as well. Those breakout rooms won't be recorded. And we'll see you guys back here in about 8 minutes.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay, Caitlin, no pressure. See, this is why Caitlin does this, because it's too much pressure for me. Okay, she said, 1 moment, please. You should see me when I do trainings. There's sweat on my brow at this point.
Oh my gosh, I'm just so grateful that we even have this committee and that, this is an opportunity for all of us to collaborate. I mean, what happens overnight, that's never predictable, but I'm just really grateful that whoever was involved in facilitating this is wonderful.
That is the kind of thing we like to hear.
Absolutely agreed. And if I tried to send you some of the documents, if there's some other things that I can share with you at some point, please let me know. We've surveyed the school counselors, I think recently, up to 90 school counselors about their experiences. Justin also had shared some survey information as well. We want you guys just to have the full understanding of the school counselor experience and how much we do want to help our students and find the best way to collaborate with our principals and with our colleagues in doing that.
Thank you for that information as well.
You're welcome.
I can't even tell if Caitlin is moving over there. Move your head, Caitlin. Okay, she's still alive. She scratched her head. That's a good sign. Thought maybe I'd have to run down to Thurber C and check on her. Okay, you should see an invitation to join a breakout room.
Where would that be?
In session. I see in session.
Caitlin, should we be seeing an invitation?
Do you guys want to break that room as well?
Yeah, we could. Thank you so much.
I see in the triangles, it says breakout room, break into your discussion group, but I don't see an invite though.
Yeah, it should appear across our screen.
No, I don't see it. It says the breakout rooms are in session ending in 6 minutes, but I don't see that we have a separate one. And we're being recorded, so I'm being very careful what I say.
Oh, here we go.
There it is. Much easier coming back.
Did you guys see the things that I put in the chat before we came back?
Briefly, yes.
Okay. It's what we discussed before, Laura, that, from our last meeting.
Okay. It's nice that we've done this because in my 26 years, we never did anything of this nature before.
I wonder if we lost them somewhere.
No, they're just in the other room, I think.
Are they they're in their own chat room?
Yeah, we're in the recording session area now.
Oh, thank you, Caitlin.
Well, there's everybody.
Thank you for giving us some extended time. We had some very, very good and fruitful conversations. And I'm so sorry, I meant to say this at the top of the meeting. Technically, there's only supposed to be 6 people in this committee. I am the 7th person, so I'm not really part of the committee. I'm here as a guide. James Thomas is going to be speaking on behalf of the conversation we just had.
Good morning again, everyone. In speaking with the group, it's a group that's definitely in support of school counselors throughout this district at all three divisions. I think conversations need to be expanded and continued in regard to drilling down to not just creating duties and non-negotiables or whatever we may term them for all school counselors, but drilling down to each of the 3 divisions, elementary and middle and high school. Because what was very evident from the 3 school counselors who spoke, who have decades of experience in the trenches, and what was evident from the conversation in our room, it is that the job is very different at all three levels. It was brought up to do high school and or secondary and elementary, but in my opinion, if we're really going to do that, why are we not drilling down through all three divisions? Because all three are very different experiences from a counselor's perspective. I think I can speak for counselors in saying that, and I see head shaking, so that's good. I do know that while this is not an exploration of compensation, I feel like somebody, and I don't know who it is, I'll be happy if it's me, because I've already had the conversation in my division meetings for middle school principals, has got to explore compensation for 504, SBT, and also ESE coordinator, which, while is not really what we're talking about, bleeds into the counselor's duties as well. I don't believe that the compensation is necessarily for school counselors, but for whomever does these tasks. So you're either compensating school counselors or you're compensating someone else who's doing it, thusly creating more available time for our school counselors to actually do the school counseling jobs they have been really should be doing in the first place.
So we're saying all of that to say that we need more time and more information. And also we would love to have the data from the survey that was done to help us move forward. I know that we have another session set up next Monday, I believe. And so we would like some grace and some time to talk about this, to see what it looks like, and so we can continue moving forward in this conversation.
We appreciate that. And yeah, we can, we had two different surveys that went out. One was done by the Pisgah group. The other was done by CTA to all school counselors, whether they were CTA members or not. We were taking professional opinions. It didn't matter to us if it came from a member or not, if it was good. What I have to do for the CTA survey is kind of comb through. So it was anonymous. I made clear to them that their identities, however, couldn't be pieced together. So the school sites were listed, so we knew if it was middle, high school, elementary. So I might have to try to figure out a way to disguise the school sites, because some schools only have one counselor or maybe two or three. So it's tough to be anonymous when you're the only person in that category. But yeah, we can look through our data, either give you the raw data or by cleaning, identifying markers, pass it to you. And then our plan going into the next meeting would be to kind of, now that our counselors have kind of laid out their holistic views, and again, it's straddled two categories, as Mr. Thomas said. There's a compensation component that we believe is worth discussing, and then there's like working conditions or duties and assignments. It is our goal to produce a couple of kind of finite, not proposals like a negotiation proposal, but finite topics that could lend themselves to potential proposals at a future negotiation session after this committee concludes its business. So we appreciate your feedback first and foremost, and any support as administrators that you're able to lend to the cause of the school counselors. And we look forward to bringing some specific proposal type things to the next committee meeting.
Sounds great. Mr. Thomas?
I do think too, when we're having, and I say we, I mean everybody on this call, whoever's having conversations with leadership, this, because I heard it a couple of times when a couple of the school counselors were speaking, that some schools provide stipends, some schools provide whatever the term was they used. While that may be the case, the problem is some schools have the ability to do that through the budgets they have and some do not. So I think we're all in agreement here that we want to come up with something that any school can do, whether it be Title I, not Title I, because that's the problem. Is you do have some schools who may have budgeted, and then you have some principals who are simply using stipends in ways they shouldn't be, as much as I agree with them. And you've seen some of the things in the paper. I got a chess club stipend sitting there that's unused, and I give it to a counselor or someone to run 504. Ethically, I don't have an issue with it because chess club's not happening, but we all know that's not supposed to be happening. So I think we have to come up with something that is contractually sound and applies to all schools.
Well, Mr. Thomas, I'm really upset you guys don't have a chess club. I play chess. I'm really good.
I was speaking hypothetically.
Of course. Yes, Lori.
Thank you. I do agree. I think, you mentioned before about looking at the different levels, elementary, middle, and high. And I think one of the two things, the equity between elementary to elementary, right? That the same things are happening and expected with allowance for flavor of each school. But when I apply for an elementary school counselor position, it should be similar from school to school. Same thing as middle and high, and the expectations and the salary or the other things similar, not exact. Every school has their own culture. We understand that. And then when asked, our organization, when asked about duties versus the money, of course, everybody would like a salary, that reflects their value. But they did say, the question came up several times, and we discussed this extensively about that. You can pay everybody a little bit more, and of course we'd want that. But the time, there's only 7.5 hours in the day, so making sure that there's time for the students, right? Because that's what we need. It's a time for this, help the students be successful and to meet their needs. And I think that's under everyone across the board, elementary, middle, and high said that that was most important to them.
Okay, I have a question. On the district side, in terms of support for guidance, like with Charlene Beckford and her group, are they broken up by grade level? I mean, elementary, middle, high?
Yes, they are.
Okay, and do we have a copy of what their role is so we can understand how they may fit into anything we do?
We can absolutely get you that.
Okay.
Because I don't know if you have it or not, but in case you don't, we'll get you something like that. Yes, absolutely.
Okay, and if we're going to drill down to, with each level, then, they may be helpful in when we do breakouts in trying to, set that up and guide and give some kind of guidance that's required.
Why do you think I invited them? I was thinking ahead.
Okay, all right. I know.
I wanted to cover all my bases.
I know. I just wanted to put it on the table. That's all. I just wanted to say it. That's all.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. All right. So I think we're in a good place. I think we all have some marching orders, some follow-ups, some things to think about, put together. This was a very fruitful conversation, at least absolutely from the district side. We feel it was very fruitful. We got a lot of insight, and we're very excited about moving forward on this. And hopefully it will produce something that we can bring back to negotiations that will, turn into some language.
Yes, thank you all again very much for your time and taking an interest in this topic.
Absolutely. So have a fabulous day. If I have a meeting with you later on, I'll see you later on. Otherwise, welcome back from spring break. We're almost to the end.
Thank you all.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
everyone.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Have a great day.
Look forward to next Monday.
Yes.